Hamilton makes a shocking admission to Ferrari. McLaren responds to Lando versus Oscar drama, and Verstappen responds to Feffier decision after Lewis incident. Let's get into the latest F1 news. Have you ever had that moment where you make a huge life decision and then immediately start to wonder if it was a mistake? Well, that's exactly the feeling Lewis Hamilton might be having right now. Let me explain. In what was one of the biggest shocks of the 2024 Formula One season, Lewis Hamilton announced he'd be leaving Mercedes, his racing home for over a decade, to join Ferrari starting in 2025. It was bold, emotional, even a little romantic. He said it was about chasing a childhood dream, about passion, about driving in red. But after this past weekend's Hungarian Grand Prix, that dream is starting to look more like a nightmare. Because while Ferrari was struggling, again, in the midfield, Hamilton pulled off something impressive. He took his underperforming Mercedes, fought through the chaos of the race, and finished P4, just behind the Red Bulls and McLarens. And meanwhile, his future boss at Ferrari, Fred Vasseur, was watching it all unfold. So what happened in Hungary, and why are people saying this might be the first sign that Hamilton made the wrong call? Let's break it down. Coming into the Hungarian GP, expectations for Ferrari were already low. The team's season has been defined by inconsistency. Some weekends, they look fast. Other weekends, they're nowhere. And this weekend, they were nowhere. Charles Leclerc had a messy race filled with mistakes and penalties. Carlos Sainz couldn't make it past Q2 in qualifying. The Ferrari strategy team, which already has a reputation for making questionable calls, seemed completely off the pace. Meanwhile, Hamilton, who's supposedly in a washed-up Mercedes, was fighting like hell in one of the best drives we've seen from him in months. Even Ferrari team boss Fred Vasseur admitted it. In an interview after the race, he said, and I quote, "I was more frustrated for Lewis than for Ferrari." Wait, what? Ferrari's team boss was more upset about Hamilton's result than his own drivers? Yep, why? Because Vasseur knows. He knows Ferrari should be doing better. He knows that in just a few months, Hamilton, a 7-time world champion, is walking into that team expecting to win. And right now, Ferrari doesn't look even close to being ready for that. Here's the psychology behind what's going on. We all want to believe we're stepping into something better. When you leave a job, a relationship, or a team, it's usually because you think the next chapter will be an upgrade. Hamilton clearly thought that. And to be fair, who wouldn't want to drive for Ferrari? The legacy, the brand, the tifosi. It's the most iconic name in racing. But Ferrari right now is suffering from what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. That's the tension we feel when reality doesn't match our expectations. They've hired a superstar, arguably the GOAT of Formula One, but their car, their strategy, and their results are sending the opposite message. And it's not just a Lewis problem, it's a Ferrari culture problem. Vasseur said in his post-race comments that Ferrari's issue isn't just speed, it's execution. He said, "We had the potential to do much better. We made too many small mistakes." That phrase, small mistakes, is the most telling part, because small mistakes, when added up over 50 laps, become big failures. And Hamilton, he's not going to accept that. He's been in an environment at Mercedes where, for most of the last decade, perfection was the standard. Mistakes were rare, strategies were sharp, development was constant. At Ferrari, it still feels like they're figuring out how to put the puzzle pieces together. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Vasseur said he's not worried, not yet. He reminded reporters that Hamilton knew what he was signing up for. He said, "Lewis is fully aware of the situation. We've been honest with him. But here's the thing. Being aware of a problem isn't the same as experiencing it." From the outside, Hamilton could look at Ferrari's stats, see the inconsistency, the strategy errors, the tire degradation issues, and still think, I can fix that. But when you're actually inside the machine, when you're the one stuck in the midfield, when your radio is filled with panic, when your teammate is blowing strategy calls, that's when the reality hits. So what does this mean for 2025? Here's the twist. Despite everything I just said, this could still work. Fred Vasseur isn't dumb. He's one of the sharpest minds in the paddock. He's already restructured Ferrari's technical department. He's brought in new engineers. He's cut dead weight. He's preparing the team for a complete transformation, and Hamilton is a big part of that plan. Hamilton isn't coming in just to drive the car. He's coming in to change the standard. But that only works if Ferrari lets him. If they fight him, if they protect the old ways, if they resist the changes he brings, it will implode. But if they listen, if they give him the tools, if they allow his relentless pursuit of perfection to guide them, then 2025 could be something special. Let's not forget, Michael Schumacher didn't win the championship with Ferrari until his 5th season there. But when it finally clicked, it led to one of the most dominant eras in F1 history. Hamilton's hoping for a similar arc. The question is, will Ferrari rise to his level, or will they drag him down to theirs? Right now, after Hungary, it's looking shaky. But F1 is a long game, and in Formula One, perception can change in a single weekend. All eyes now shift to the next Grand Prix. Will Ferrari bounce back? Will Mercedes give Hamilton more reasons to reconsider? Or is this just the start of a dramatic new chapter? One where Hamilton becomes the hero Ferrari never knew it needed? We'll be watching, because this story, it's just getting started. Ever seen a world champion driver say nothing happened after nearly forcing another legend off the track? Welcome to the Hungarian Grand Prix 2025, where Max Verstappen tugged at the nerves of Lewis Hamilton and sparked not one, but 2 FIA investigations in one wild weekend. Stick around, because this intense showdown is full of drama, tension, and jaw-dropping turns. I'm your host, and today we're breaking down everything you need to know about the Hungarian Grand Prix fallout. From a bizarre towel toss during practice to a full-throttle pass on Hamilton and rising questions about rivalries and punishments, this race had it all. By the end of this video, you'll understand why one move kept fans talking and what it reveals about Verstappen's mindset and reputation. The drama began in second practice, when Max Verstappen pulled over near the edge of the Hungaroring, lifted both hands off the steering wheel mid-corner, and threw a towel out of the cockpit. Yes, a towel. Why? According to Max, it slipped from his lap and he didn't want it to get caught in the pedals, so he flung it off track. The FIA cited a safety regulation violation, arguing that he released something from the car during a live session. Red Bull and Verstappen were summoned to the stewards, but ultimately, no penalty was issued. They got a warning. It might seem like a small, even humorous moment, but psychologically, odd behavior sticks in people's minds. A towel flying out of a Formula One car? That image became a meme in minutes. But Max's Weird Friday was just the start. Qualifying was even worse. Verstappen and Red Bull were completely off pace. The grip was gone. The balance was unpredictable. He ended up qualifying 8th, his worst Saturday result of the season. It was a rare moment where the reigning world champion seemed beatable. He even admitted to the media that he had no idea why the car felt so wrong. The team had gone backwards. That sense of vulnerability was like blood in the water. Meanwhile, Ferrari was flying. Charles Leclerc took pole position, the team's first of the season, and suddenly the grid looked very different. Verstappen wasn't in control. He was stuck in the midfield, and when champions feel cornered, they fight harder. That brings us to lap 29 of the race. Max Verstappen is behind Lewis Hamilton. He sees an opening into turn 4 and lunges. Hamilton holds firm, but Max forces the issue. The two cars get dangerously close. Hamilton is pushed off track and takes the escape route to avoid a collision. The stewards immediately announce an investigation. Fans hold their breath. It's Verstappen versus Hamilton again, and this time, no one's pulling punches. After the race, Verstappen looked surprised by the fuss. He told reporters he was baffled by the summons. In his words, nothing happened. Hamilton, interestingly, didn't even attend the hearing. He chose to skip it. In the end, the stewards ruled that no further action was needed. Max kept his position, Hamilton stayed outside the points, and the world moved on. Or did it? Because under the surface, this clash reveals something deeper. Verstappen isn't just fast, he's ruthless when threatened. He saw an opportunity and took it, knowing that a post-race review was likely, but betting that it wouldn't change the outcome. And he was right. Meanwhile, Hamilton is in the middle of his own personal storm. Still adjusting to life at Ferrari, he called himself useless over the team radio during the race. After finishing 12th, he even said Ferrari might need a different driver. It was a raw, honest moment from a 7-time world champion, and it reminded fans that behind the helmets are real humans, battling not just machines, but emotions, pressure, and public expectation. While Verstappen and Hamilton were locked in their own drama, another story was unfolding up front. Lando Norris, calm, calculated, and fast. His one-stop strategy worked to perfection. He passed his teammate Oscar Piastri and brought home McLaren's 200th Formula One victory. It was a historic day for the team and for Norris, who now sits just 9 points behind Piastri in the Drivers' Championship. But let's zoom back out. What does all of this mean? It means that even champions crack under pressure. That Verstappen, despite his dominance, can still be rattled. That Hamilton, despite his experience, can still doubt himself. And that Formula One is as much a mental game as it is a physical one. From a towel tossed in frustration, to a risky move on an old rival, to a victory by a young star, this weekend had every ingredient of a classic. Verstappen's hunger is still there. Hamilton's fire might be dimmer, but it's not out. And the new generation is rising faster than ever. So what do you think? Did Verstappen cross the line with that move on Hamilton? Was the FIA right to let it go? And is Lewis right to question his place at Ferrari? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. Imagine this. You're chasing your teammate who's just stolen a podium from you, and suddenly Lewis Hamilton appears in front of you. Not as an obstacle, but as an unexpected ally. That's exactly what happened at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it almost changed everything. This is the story of how Lewis Hamilton unintentionally helped Oscar Piastri nearly steal back a podium from Lando Norris, and why this moment says so much about racing psychology, team politics, and raw instinct. Let's rewind. We're at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Temperatures are high, tensions higher, McLaren is flying. Both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are in the fight. They're fast, ruthless, focused, but behind the scenes, there's a chess game unfolding. And it's not just between the Red Bulls and Mercedes. It's happening within McLaren, between their two young stars. Piastri had qualified strong and started aggressively, but an undercut strategy shifted things in Norris's favor. Suddenly, Lando was ahead and Oscar was playing catch-up. That's when something unexpected happened. Lando Norris was holding third. Oscar Piastri was in fourth, about 2.3 seconds behind. Close, but not close enough. And then, there's Lewis Hamilton. He's sitting in fifth, and he's on a charge. The 7-time world champion is closing in on Piastri fast. Now here's where things get interesting. You'd expect Hamilton to pressure Piastri, maybe distract him, force a mistake, but the opposite happened. Because instead of cracking, Piastri activated. According to F1 experts, Hamilton's presence behind Oscar forced him into a zone, what psychologists call flow state. It's that heightened moment of focus where instinct takes over and reaction time shortens. Piastri wasn't defending, he was escaping. And in doing so, he drove like a man possessed. Suddenly, the gap between him and Norris wasn't 2.3 seconds, it was 1.6, then 1.4, then just 1.1 seconds. And this is where Lewis Hamilton unknowingly helped Oscar Piastri. By hunting down Oscar, Hamilton forced him to tap into everything. Tire management, braking precision, corner exit timing. And it worked. Oscar started closing the gap to Lando, fast. As F1 analyst and ex-driver Jolyon Palmer put it, it was as though Piastri needed the pressure from Hamilton to unlock more pace. He suddenly came alive. That pressure? It almost flipped the podium order. Now think about the irony here. Lewis Hamilton, a Mercedes driver trying to chase down a McLaren, and in doing so, he almost helped one McLaren beat another. It was like unintentionally giving Piastri a tow, not down a straight, but through his own potential. With just a few laps to go, the gap between Norris and Piastri dropped below a second. The McLaren pit wall knew it, the fans knew it, and Norris, he definitely knew it. But here's the twist. Piastri had burned through his tires. He'd over-delivered on pace to hold off Hamilton, and by the time he got close to Lando, there was nothing left to strike with. No DRS, no grip, just pressure. Lando held his nerve. Cool under fire, he crossed the line third, claiming a well-earned podium. And Piastri? Fourth. So close, so fast. but just out of reach. Still, what he said after the race revealed something deeper. The car felt great in that middle stint. I could feel Hamilton behind me, but I was just focused on making the most of every lap. And Lando's radio? Mint. Thank you very much. Classic Norris. Let's break this down psychologically. Pressure creates clarity. Piastri needed an external threat, Hamilton, to switch off his thinking brain and turn on his racing instincts. That's when he started flying. Team battles are quietly savage. McLaren didn't need to give team orders. Both drivers knew what was at stake. One podium, two drivers, no mistakes allowed. Hamilton's presence changed the race without touching a single car. That's influence. That's legacy. This race wasn't just about points. It was about identity. For Lando Norris, it was another podium, more proof he's the team leader. For Oscar Piastri, it was a statement. I'm here, and I'm getting faster. And for Hamilton, it was a masterclass in indirect impact. Even when he doesn't win, he changes the race. Whether you're a Lando fan, a Piastri believer, or a Hamilton loyalist, this Hungarian GP gave you a masterpiece in racing psychology. Because sometimes, the biggest move in F1 is the one you didn't mean to make. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like and let me know in the comments. Do you think Piastri has what it takes to challenge Lando long-term? Or will Norris continue to dominate the McLaren garage? Lewis Hamilton's Formula One future is suddenly looking more uncertain than ever. After an explosive start to his time at Ferrari, many fans and experts alike are asking the same question. Is the seven-time world champion really ready for this new chapter? This isn't just speculation. Recently, none other than Damon Hill, the 1996 Formula One world champion, voiced his doubts. Hill warned that the challenges Hamilton faces at Ferrari could only get harder from here. And when someone with Hill's experience speaks, it demands our attention. Let's break down why Hamilton's future in F1 might be at a crossroads, and why this story is about much more than just racing. First, consider the context. Lewis Hamilton is a legend. 7 world titles, a record-equaling driver in the history books, and one of the most recognizable faces in the sport. But after years of dominance with Mercedes, Hamilton made a bold move, switching to Ferrari, a team with its own legendary status but recent struggles. The hope? That Hamilton would bring Ferrari back to the top. The reality? It's been anything but smooth. Ferrari's 2025 season started with high expectations, but the team has struggled to find consistency. Hamilton himself has faced uncharacteristic challenges, from qualifying disappointments to difficult race days. Mistakes have crept in, something rarely seen in Hamilton's prime years. Now imagine the psychological weight this puts on a driver like Hamilton. The pressure to perform at Ferrari is immense. This isn't just about winning races, it's about restoring glory to a brand that hasn't won a championship in over a decade. Every lap, every corner, every decision is scrutinized under the microscope of Ferrari fans and global F1 audiences. Damon Hill's comments highlight the growing awareness that Hamilton's journey won't get any easier. Hill suggested that Hamilton's struggles aren't just technical or team-related. They could signal a deeper challenge. Is the legendary driver battling the inevitable signs of aging in a sport that demands peak performance every second? Or is it a case of adapting to a new environment, team culture, and car that simply doesn't fit his driving style? This brings us to an interesting psychological angle: the concept of identity and adaptation in elite sports. Hamilton is known for his confidence, his ability to rise under pressure. But when faced with repeated setbacks, even the strongest mindset can waver. How does a champion cope when the winning formula suddenly slips away? Sports psychology tells us that athletes who struggle with adaptation often face a crisis of confidence. They question their abilities, which can lead to a vicious cycle of self-doubt and decreased performance. For Hamilton, who has been at the top for so long, this period could be one of the toughest in his career. Yet, it's not all doom and gloom. History shows us many athletes who faced mid-career slumps, only to come back stronger. Hamilton himself has overcome adversity before, from early career setbacks to intense public scrutiny over the years. His resilience is part of what makes his story so compelling. But this new chapter at Ferrari is different. The stakes are higher, the spotlight brighter, and with Hill's warning that the challenges will get harder, the pressure is mounting. Why does this matter to us as fans? Because Hamilton isn't just a driver, he's a symbol of excellence, determination, and evolution. Watching his journey unfold at Ferrari is like watching a masterclass in coping with change or struggling with it. Here's the key question: can Lewis Hamilton reinvent himself once again? Can he find a new rhythm, a new edge in a team desperate for a championship? Or will this be the beginning of a gradual decline? One thing is certain: the next few races will be critical. Every lap will be analyzed, every move debated. Fans will either witness a resurgence or a slow fade. But there's another layer to this story. It's not just about Hamilton or Ferrari. It's about the nature of greatness itself. Greatness in sport isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's full of highs and lows, moments of triumph and times of doubt. The greatest champions are those who learn to navigate the toughest moments, who adapt when everything seems to be against them. So, as Hamilton faces this tough period, we're reminded that even legends have their battles. What matters most is how they respond. If Hamilton manages to overcome these challenges, it will add a whole new chapter to his legacy. One defined not just by championships, but by courage and reinvention. If he struggles, it may mark the beginning of the final act of one of Formula One's greatest careers. Either way, this story has us hooked, because it's not just about speed or trophies. It's about the human spirit, pushing to stay on top when everything is changing around you. So, what do you think? Will Hamilton rise to the occasion at Ferrari? Or will the pressure prove too much? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your predictions. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more F1 updates and deep dives. This season promises to be one of the most dramatic in recent memory, and I'll be here to bring you all the insights. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.